Things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucs. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. And as always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Jay Recher Podcast. Hope everybody is having a wonderful Wednesday, whether you're here in the Tampa Bay area or abroad. Follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe as well. Plenty to get into today on the program. I've got notes. I have got notes when it comes to our Tampa Bay Buccaneers game day 2. Buccaneers mandatory minicamp today. So I got a lot of things that I took away from today, a lot more today than I did yesterday. So we'll get into that here in a little bit up until 12:30. And then at 12:30 today, Joey Knight's going to join us from the Tampa Bay Times talking all things USF with Michael Kelly leaving, who is the front runner for replacing him. What about the new NIL? What is going on with the transfer portal? There's just so many different things going on with South Florida. So our guy, Joey Knight, who's been covering them for as long as anybody, is going to be joining us today on the program at 12:30. At 1 o'clock today, JC Allen is going to join us from Buccaneers Game Day to give us his impressions of the first 2 days of minicamp. Actually, that's 1:15. Excuse me. He's going to join us at 1:15 today. And then, just a little bit of everything. We're talking some Rays baseball. What I was really impressed with last night that I think is going to have some really good after effects for our guys. And then at 1:40, I'm going to try not to blow a gasket when it comes to the U.S. men's national soccer team, but absolutely, utterly embarrassing stuff last night. And we are literally 1 year away from the World Cup kicking off here in North America. And I should be excited, but I'm not. And last night was a big time indicator of that. It pisses me off that we have to talk about something like that, but we will on the program today. Where are you watching the Jay Recher Podcast from? Feel free to put it there on the screen. I always want to hear from you guys, your thoughts on the Bucs, the Rays, the Bolts, anything going on. Shout out to Victor Hedman coming in 5th for the Norris Trophy voting for best defenseman in the National Hockey League. Ryan McDonough also finished in the top 20 as well, coming in at number 14, I believe it was 14. I should know. I just freaking tweeted it out. So, 5 for Victor Hedman, number 14, yes, for Ryan McDonough. So, congratulations to our Bolts. And we'll go, good luck to those. I'm just very happy for them. Again, your thoughts on the teams or anything, there is the StreamYard link. It is in the chat. Just click on that with your phone or your laptop and you can join in on the conversation. Where are you watching the Jay Recher Podcast from today? Where are you watching it? Why does that sound so weird to me? Let me know. Put it there in the chat. And also, we're still looking for a slogan for a t-shirt. T-shirt slogan. If you come up with the t-shirt slogan, I will send you 5 t-shirts for absolutely free. So you come up with the t-shirt slogan for our guys on the t-shirt. Let me know. Dolan, Rays can't win them all. You got that right. Jeff Taylor, my guy. Jeff Taylor, one of the big inspirations for the t-shirts. Chris Cole, hey Jay. David Terry, DT, what's up, brother? JR is the number 1 choice. That could be it. But again, I want something when we're looking at I don't want it to be Jay, right? Because I'm going to put the Jay Recher Podcast on there in some form or fashion. But I wanted to do something with Tampa. Something that you don't have to necessarily be a sports fan. You don't even necessarily have to be a listener to the podcast. I want something that has mass appeal. Something like Tampa Proud or Tampa Maine or something like I know other people have used that, but I just want I want something that's catchy merch that's just going to be simple and then go from there. I don't want something that's going to be I'm not starting a merch. I'm not starting a t-shirt company. I want some merch for the show. Ren, what's up, brother? T-shirt slogan for the show. Yes, but I want it to be Tampa focused and not just for the Bucs, right? So I don't want something that says pewter in it. I don't want that. And I don't want I know, but that's me. I don't want me in there, Tampa J. Just think about it. The Jay Birds. I know that's what's funny. That's what Ira Kaufman calls me. That's what my uncle and my grandfather calls me too as well. All right. Let's get into what I saw today from One Buccaneer Place over at the Avon Health Training Center, day 2 of Buccaneers mandatory minicamp. Again, the link is in the chat right there. If you want to get in on the conversation, feel free to do that as well. The first guy that sticks out every single time is Hassan Reddick. It just, even if you don't want to look at that guy, and he's just talking right now. And you know what? We'll play this for you. This is from our friends at Pewter Report. Hassan Reddick addressing the concerns that people have about him not coming to OTAs. I didn't think it was a big deal. A lot of people that we had on didn't think it was a big deal. Here's what Hassan Reddick had to say about the situation.
I'll address it because before y'all do, everybody was concerned about me not showing up at OTAs, but for me, I definitely made sure to stay in shape. I think I showed that to everybody out here. I don't think it should have been a question, but just had some things to button up on as I get ready to make this transition down here, so that way once I get here, I ain't got to worry about nothing back up here.
You've been around this.
There you go. I mean, he doesn't seem concerned at all, and I don't think anybody should have been, nor are they now. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're concerned if this guy's like aloof or he doesn't care or he doesn't get along with his teammates, that couldn't be farther from the truth. And this is the kind of thing. Be careful. I've told you guys this for so long when I was on DAE, whether I'm here on the podcast. Be careful who you get your information from. Be careful, especially when you're talking about the players and you're talking about how they are with their teammates. Like, if you're not there all the time, if you don't see certain things, right? Of course, you don't always know the inner workings of situations, but man, the 2 days that we've been out there, he's been dapping it up with everybody. He's been with Vita Vea and Kalijah Cansey pretty much every single time I see them walking. He had a big play today where he stopped a run play. Bucky Irving, I think it was the third play of 11 on 11s, and he was hooting and hollering, and everybody was dapping him up. Like, this is a guy. I mean, it doesn't behoove him to be this hermit, this guy that's not going to be a good teammate. I've been impressed with him, and that's just as a teammate. Then I was watching some of the drills. I was watching, and they were off in the 3 fields that were set up, or maybe the 4 one, but nobody really goes on that one. But off to the side on the 3rd field, I was watching the edge rushers go to work, and watching Hassan Reddick and the bend that he has and the way that he's able to get so low to the ground to get around the edge. It was the best that I've seen since JPP was here. It was crazy about it. It was crazy. So to be able to look at a situation like his and to understand that he is the most talented guy, and I'm not taking anything away from Shaq Barrett, because you look at Shaq Barrett or Yaya Diaby, right? And I know a lot of people are saying, Ren, you bring up a good point. Every local sports show said it wasn't a big deal. Then they talk about it every day on how it wasn't a big deal. Only the shows were talking about it. Yeah, no, you're right. But I mean, there was people on social media that were concerned. You know, I understand what you're saying, Ren, but there were people on social media that I saw that were concerned just because of what has happened in the recent history with him, with the Jets. It'd be one thing if it was just any guy, right? But because of what happened last year with the Jets, with the holdout, there were the vocal minority that were saying certain things. Dolan, I think only 6 people were concerned about Reddick. The rest of us had no worry. Count me in there. I was not worried at all. Biggest non-story since the manufactured Mayfield Trask QB competition. Listen, we were all over that, man. We were charting the throws pretty much, but it turned out to not be a competition. But I got to be honest with you. And again, going back to Hassan Reddick, he is the most talented edge rusher the Bucs have had since Jason Pierre-Paul. And that's not taking anything away from a guy like Shaq Barrett and what he was able to do. Shaq was, he grew into that. Obviously, you look at Hassan Reddick, you look at JPP, highly touted guys coming out of college as well, doing big things here in the NFL. But there's just something different about this guy. There's just something different. you watch some of these younger pass rushers and they almost like go to the ground because they're trying to like overemphasize, the bend and overemphasize getting low. Like it just happens naturally for Hassan Reddick. I truly believe that he is going to be a big time difference maker for this defense this year. It's going to behoove him being here, and it's going to behoove the team in a big, big way. And as long as a guy like Diaby's around there with him, and they're getting the push up the middle, I mean, my God, I really, really enjoy watching him go to work. And it's exciting to be able to just almost daydream a little bit of like, all right, what if they really did have a pass rush? We keep saying, well, what if they had a pass rush? If they had a pass rush, well, now you really might have one. The other thing stood out, and I'm going kind of back and forth of a couple of different things. Shiloh Sanders. A lot of people are going to be asking about Shiloh, and of course, with the name and unsigned guys doing this vlog around Tampa, and he's really liking it here. Just watching Shiloh, and he does have room to grow. Don't get me wrong. He is a guy that is an undrafted free agent, but in that safety spot, he doesn't look like he's that far off from the guys right after. Because you see Antoine Winfield Jr., you see Tyke Smith, and then, looking at some of these other guys, Kayvon Merriweather and some of these other undrafted guys that are bringing in for workouts, like Shiloh doesn't look like a guy that's that far off. He doesn't. I mean, foot speed maybe a little bit. I mean, the technique he's going to have to slightly clean up a little bit. Nothing that out of the ordinary. Because I'm going to tell you, when you go to OTAs, when you go to these training camps like this early before they start cutting the rosters down, you see a drop off. You just do. It's just natural. Like there's going to be a drop off between Bucky Irving and the last running back. There's going to be a drop off between Mike Evans and the last wide receiver, right? It's just going to happen. And Shiloh is consistently the last or the second to last player that's doing these drills. And here, I'll play it for you guys right here because I actually have one here. I don't necessarily look at Shiloh Sanders, and this is a guy like Kayvon Merriweather who, Kayvon's given the lightning. Kayvon's given the Bucs some good time. Like he's given some good snaps. Is he a world beater? No, but he is a guy that is reliable when it comes to Todd Bowles and his defense. He knows this defense. You take a look for yourself. Here is Shiloh Sanders and Kayvon Merriweather. Again, I know it's just a drill. Right? They're not even in big time. I get it, right? But just look, does it look like the difference between these two guys is a lot? You be the judge here as we watch this together. And there's Shiloh, right? Good change of direction. The ball is so, and I've noted, and there's Kayvon here. Let's look at it one more time. Here's Shiloh. Back pedal, brake to his right, back to his left. I mean, and here's Kayvon. I mean, what do you guys think? Am I going crazy here? I think Shiloh looks pretty good. I mean, we're going to have to see. And I know Ren saying about the tackling. Yeah, that's true. That's something that we're not going to really find out until training camp and then the preseason games. But I think if you're a guy that can get in there, because we did hear that same type of thing, that there were some issues. I know our guy Logan came on a couple of weeks ago from Bucs Game Day. JC Allen's going to join us later on. That was one of the concerns in college, that his technique wasn't great. But listen, if this is something that he can get with these guys and work on it, and he's got a knack for the football, because that's something that we do know. And I love the change of direction there. I mean, look at what you just saw. Is there that much of a difference between Shiloh Sanders and Kayvon Merriweather right there? I don't know. I don't think so. That's only a part of it, but that's all we got. That's all we got, right? But if we're looking at certain techniques, like, again, we can look at Mike Evans and we can look at the last wide receiver, and even though we know that there's no defenders out there and the game time and the game tape is obviously that's going to be paramount, but there's a discernible difference between that. We're looking at Kayvon Merriweather and how he comes out of his breaks, in relation to a guy like Shiloh Sanders. And I don't think there's much of a difference right there. We know that's just a part of it, but I think that's a step in the right direction when you're looking at a guy like Shiloh Sanders. Here's another one. the cornerbacks putting in work, and we'll see some of the guys that we have here. No Benjamin Morrison working out at camp today, so that's something to certainly keep an eye on. But here's Jamel Dean and the guys there at the cornerback position. Tell me if there's something that sticks out to you here. Obviously, Jamel Dean going first. You see Zion out there. These guys going together. And if we see more press coverage this year, I think that only feeds into the strength of Jamel Dean. Jacob Parrish, who seems to be the guy that's got the inside position on the nickel position, with Tyke going back and playing safety. But there's just something about Jamel Dean. All right, so one thing I noticed today, and it may be a little bit there, but also just watching these guys, Jamel Dean just does not look comfortable catching the football. He works on it every single day. And that's why you have to be very careful when people say they don't even care, they don't even work on it, this guy doesn't work hard. Listen, Ian and I have gone back and forth about Joe Tryon for 5 years. I bet you didn't think you were getting a JTS reference on the show today. But every single freaking day at training camp, JTS was one of the first guys out there. He was grinding. He was busting his ass. He tried to do whatever it took to be able to be a productive player in the league. It just didn't work out for him. Not a bad guy. Doesn't have it's not a lack of work ethic. It just wasn't a good player. I know people always want to look at stuff like that and think that it's a lot more serious and a lot more in depth. It's not. Sometimes guys are just not good enough. And people always want to put a number and like, oh, this and that. And then he doesn't care. He doesn't try. These guys try. These guys leave it all out there. JTS just wasn't good enough. And that's the same thing with Jamel Dean. I don't think he's ever going to be a guy that's going to have 5, 6, 7 interceptions. That's just not his bag. It's not his thing. He's going to be a guy that's a bigger dude that's going to be able to tackle in space. He's going to play much better press coverage than he is off the receiver. And I just saw it today. He just looks uncomfortable catching the football. I mean, that's why he's a D-back and not a wide receiver. So let's hope that this year with a better pass rush and some more guys around him, hopefully you can bring out the best in Jamel Dean. Because who knows, right? Who knows what the future holds for him here in Tampa Bay. The wide receiver spot. So J-Mac's going to be number 3 for now. And Jalen McMillan caught the first 2 plays from Baker Mayfield in 11-on-11s. The first pass from Baker. Now, for those that don't know, you're allowed to record the first 20, 30 minutes. It was a little bit more extended today. But once they go to whether it's 11-on-11s, 7-on-7s, they shut that shit down. No more pictures, no more photos. But the first play, 11-on-11s today, it was a beautifully feathered throw from Baker Mayfield down the right sideline over the linebacker's head. I think it might have been Anthony Walker. I might be mistaken there. But there was just a combination route on the right side. And Abuka started in motion early. And I like that. That's one thing we didn't see from Dave Canales. We saw from Liam Cohen. And we were wondering, Josh Grizzard, that's a huge part, the pre-snap motion. We saw that a ton last year. And that really fed into why that offense was so successful. And I think especially, not just the passing game, but the running game too. But Abuka starts in motion, goes out to the flank, and then boom, combination route there with Jalen McMillan, and Baker just drops it right in there. What a throw, a great catch for Jalen McMillan. Second play was a slant with Jalen McMillan. He makes the grab. Really great chemistry between those two guys. J-Mac's going to be the number 3 receiver, and I don't think it is a problem or an indicator that Emeka Egbuka is not doing the job. Because there's something about Emeka Egbuka, just watching him. He made it really – there's a smoothness to his game. I feel bad for – I don't know if I feel bad for him. I don't know if that's the right term, but the guy that I think of when I see him, the guy that I've seen, and it may not be fair or not, but the comparison with him and Chris Godwin is something that's just going to live with him. Because when I watch Chris Godwin – when he first got drafted out of Penn State. I go, this guy looks like a pro already. His routes are smooth. The ball, when it hits his hands, it sticks. And it's the same exact thing with Emeka Egbuka. He's not getting a ton of those first team snaps. I mean, obviously he's going to get some with Chris Godwin not being out there. You did on that first play with Jalen McMillan, but then there's other times when it's just a couple of wideouts and it's J-Mac and Evans. But there was a play down the left sideline with Kyle Trask when he threw the ball to him, and it just looked so smooth. He was able to cut in, make the play, reverse course, and get up the sideline. And I'm just, this dude's is going to be a steal for this team. Like, there's just going to be, you're going to watch this guy and you're going to instantly fall in love with him, just like you did with Chris, because I don't know if there's anything that he's ever going to do that is going to wow you, but he's not afraid to block. He's not afraid to go over the middle. He's got soft hands. He makes himself presentable for the quarterback. Love what I've seen from Emeka Egbuka. I want to answer this question from Ren. Bulls and Lights said they like the depth at off-ball linebacker. You've been out there. Early thoughts. Don't agree. Sorry, I don't agree. And it's not because of just what I've seen. It's just because the unknown, and that's Servassier Dennis. To watch, I do have the roster with me right here. This is why you go out there. Bada bing, bada boom. Realest guy in the room. How you doing? When you look at Anthony Walker, who lists at 6'1", 235, it's hard to look at him. It's hard to look at him and not think of Jordan Whitehead. He's not the biggest dude. And I get it, right? I get it. Because when you look at, Levante here, 6'1", 233, there was a play where Walker got burned down the right sideline and he was fell on the ground and they were like, get up. And is he going to, people say it's going to be a little bit more of a KJ Britt type of thing. Okay. That's fine. But you just got to pray. You got to pray for the health of those inside linebackers. And Servassier Dennis just hasn't proved to stay healthy. He's been fantastic. Listen, he has been really good. And when he's available, I've got no issues. But it's the NFL. It's the NFL. Part of the reason why you feel a lot better. Think about it like this. Part of the reason why you feel a lot better about the Buccaneers going into the season is because they addressed the pass rushing situation and the cornerback situation, two signs of weaknesses, with multiple players, right? Not just with one guy. They didn't just go, Hassan Reddick. No, a couple of draft picks as well with Roberts and Walker, who's still banged up, out with the hamstring injury. Shouldn't be too long. But the corner spot, right? Not only are you getting Bryce Hall back, but you also drafted Benjamin Morrison. You drafted Jacob Parrish, right? So it's not just one guy. Of course, that's what they're going to say and this is where I don't necessarily think that they're liars for saying that. And I know you're saying that tongue in cheek, Ren, but you have to have more belief in your players than anybody else. You establish personal relationships with them. You make a decision because you think that when they're on the field, they give you a better chance to win, right? The chance to win. So they're not going to be consistently on the pessimism side and the pessimistic side, because it's their selection, right? Because they have to, the onus is on them, right? So you're going to use, it's the same thing like we talk about the Rays. It's easy for us to be like, get rid of Christopher Morel, he sucks. But the Rays made the decision to bring him here as part of the centerpiece of that deal for Isaac Paredes. So while it's easy for us to be like, get rid of that guy, he stinks, they're going to be like, we made this move. We have to make sure that we turn over every stone and use every resource that we have to accentuate this guy's strengths and see if he can be the guy that we thought he was going to be when we brought him in there. It's the same thing with the Bucs. Same thing with every team out there. And the Bucs probably more than other teams, because we know a guy like Todd Bowles is going to be loyal to his players. It took a while to get JTS out of there and get Yaya in a couple seasons ago, right? It took a while to get Ryan Neal out of the safety spot, right? It took a while to get Devin White out of there. So you have to be cognizant of that they're going to be a lot more loyal to their guys than you are. Some of the other notes from today, looking also at the wide receiver spot. It's interesting to see because there was a couple of different guys. Trask looked decent today. Dennis Houston is a guy. Second-year dude, this is a guy that is a free agent, and I'm going to give you a little background here on Mr. Houston because I wrote it down on my paper here. Dennis Houston, 6'1", 190, second season out of Western Illinois, a free agent signing. Keep an eye on that guy. He's made some really good plays, even just in one-on-ones and then in 11-on-11s. Lower end type of wide receiver guy that will he make the roster? Probably not because there's so many different players, but that could be a guy that pops in the preseason and be like, oh yeah, that's where I heard it from here, right here on the Jay Recher podcast. They like Cam Johnson. They do. He's fast. He's gotten better at running his routes. Rakim Jarrett made a really nice play today. Ryan Miller made probably one of the better catches today down the right sideline. So, I mean, that's a position. We had this conversation yesterday, like which position group is the best. It could be the O-line, which is the deepest. Wide receivers, there's a lot of players, and I'm talking about, Sterling Shepard is a guy that they like. There's that veteran leadership. He's not going to bitch and moan. It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Let's see here. Ren says, I thought Light did the organizing a disservice by not trading for a coverage linebacker last season, but then Dean got hurt, made my point moot. Yeah, I was wondering, is Jermaine Pratt a guy to keep an eye on? Last year, who I was calling for Spillane, right? You got to have a guy that can be able to cover with that defense that the Buccaneers are going to. Here's your slogan, Jamamola, Tampa Bay United, using raised bolts, Bucks colors on the lettering. Tag the podcast on the gear. Ren likes it. Maybe a heart because Jay is sappy. You know what, Ren? You son of a gun. You're probably right. I am sappy. I do get emotional. But yeah, I like that. Tampa Bay United. That's not too bad. I got to make sure that there's no, because I know that was a soccer. That is a soccer club around here, and I actually know the guy that used to run it, so I'm gonna ask him, see if we can make that work. Maybe it's spelled a little bit different too. Some of the other notes from camp, I really like what I've seen from Devin Culp. He is a problem out of the tight end position. He can fly. He's a huge guy, and you know what Kate Otten can do. And shout out to Payne Durham and Devin Culp, because going into the year last year, not many people thought that they could block to help this running game. And I asked Kate Otten last year probably in the beginning of training camp, and they wore that as a badge of I guess, dishonor. We have to do our part in the running game. Watching that they were last in the league in rushing was not great. And it wasn't just on the offensive line, just wasn't on the running backs of the play calling. The tight ends understand that, they have a part to play in that as well. So I really like Devin Culp. He is a factor in the red zone. Don't be surprised if they utilize him more. All right, last thing before we get to Joey Knight and talk some USF stuff. This is going to be an unpopular opinion because everybody right now is so in the Bucky Irving camp. Everybody thinks Bucky Irving is going to have this fantastic year, and I think he will. All-purpose guy, running, catching the ball out of the backfield. But keep an eye on Rachaad White. I keep an eye on Rachaad White, and this is the reason why. I thought that Rachaad White was more of a third down back, even when he was a starter for this team. What does he do well? He is a guy that does a great job picking up the blitzes, and he does a great job of catching the ball out of the backfield. So if you're telling me that Rachaad White going into the season, he's going to be your third down back, I think that we always talk about roles and accentuating strengths. I think this makes a lot of sense. A lot of people are going to be all over Bucky Irving. They're going to talk about drafting him with their first pick in fantasy football, and they're going to talk about all the great things that he did last year. But keep an eye on Rachaad White, because this is a contract year for him. He thinks he could be a starter somewhere else, regardless of what he says after he made that post on Instagram. But I just really, truly believe when you look at these two guys, especially dating back to last year, Rachaad White and his talent and his skill, it just makes a lot more sense that him being that third down back. I think you're going to see big things from him. I really do. Is he going to be a 1,000-yard rusher? No. But don't be surprised if he is a touchdown vulture. Don't be surprised if he is a guy that gets maybe 400 or 500 yards receiving, gets a total of 6, 7, 8 touchdowns. Don't hate it. Don't hate it. And not a lot of people are going to talk about that because they're going to be so high on Bucky, but don't sleep on Rachaad White either. All right, let's bring him in. Let me get my background ready to make sure that we properly. There we go. All right, there he is, our good pal Joey Dyan of the Tampa Bay Times. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing great, buddy. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great. You sound great. How's the weather out there?
Hot and humid. I like working on my back porch, poolside, but usually about 12:30 or 1 o'clock, I got to take it inside.
I hear you, my friend. I hear you. So the big news, obviously, with our USF Bulls, Michael Kelly going elsewhere. Did this surprise you at all?
It surprised me initially, but then when I thought about it for about 5 to 10 minutes, it made complete sense. If you know Michael Kelly's background, he was born in Washington, D.C. His father, Dennis, was a 1967 graduate of the Naval Academy, served in Vietnam. Michael went to an all-boys military institution, Annapolis. He spent some time there in his youth. That's his stomping grounds. That's his home. So I think this was a really great opportunity for him that doesn't come along very often because Navy doesn't replace athletic directors very often at all. So it was kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for him. And if you think about it, Jay, think about this. This is something that also came to mind after the fact. At the service academies, there's no NIL. There's no pay-for-player revenue sharing. And for an athletic director, I imagine that's got to be an enormous potential headache that you don't have to deal with, which doesn't mean that the service academies aren't striving for excellence in athletics. They are. Navy was 10-3 in football last year. USF can attest to how good they were. But, they're never going to deter from their primary mission statement, and that's to prepare young men and women to lead, the armed forces. So I think it's a very understandable move for Michael Kelly at this stage of his life. He can work 10, 12, 15 years there and retire at a place that he loves.
Yeah, it's a great point. And talking to Michael, even just a couple of weeks ago over at the baseball tournament, you could just tell, like, maybe it's different now because you look back on it, but it just seemed like, I don't know, he had his mind elsewhere. And I'm sure this is something that he was keeping an eye on. How long do you think he was mulling this over? Do you think this is something that just happened, or what do you think?
Well, the AD, it wouldn't have happened if the AD, Chet Gladchuk, the AD at Navy, had resigned. And he had been there a quarter century, so it would have been a moot point. But when Chet resigned, and, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm sure he and Michael are probably pretty close. Michael may have inquired about it and picked Chet's brain. But again, when this opportunity arose, I'm sure Michael looked at it as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because Army, Navy, the Air Force Academy, those are pretty stable places. There's not a lot of administrative turnover. So Michael said, if not now, probably never. So, it would have happened if the previous AD hadn't retired, and Michael sees the opportunity.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You're right. I mean, you look at this situation and go, I don't have to worry about my job security, and good for him. I think it has to do a lot more with Michael as a person, right, rather than what he can do NIL-wise. And it is ironic that he was really on the forefront of NIL and the transfer portal early on in his USF career, and now he doesn't really have to worry about it, which is kind of funny. Now the kind of the attention turns to now, Joey, is who's on that short list. And I know I read a great article with you with some of the names on there. I know Leilel Prado is another guy that I know is not only in contention for this job, but the job over at the University of Tampa for their athletic department job that Larry Marfis, he's out now. Who are some of the names that people really need to keep an eye on, whether it's inside South Florida or outside?
Well, first and foremost, whoever gets this job has to be a fundraiser. That's what it's all about these days. Common sense will tell you that. We're in the revenue sharing era. Starting July 1st, I believe it's July 1st, colleges are legally permitted to share revenue with their athletes at an annual cap of up to $20.5 million a year. So whoever takes this job has to be able to raise money, because that money is just not, that kind of revenue is just not going to arise in a puff of smoke. That's the main prerequisite of any athletic director. They can find associate ADs to handle the administrative stuff and the scheduling stuff and things of that nature. The main athletic director, among other duties, prominent among his other duties, is being able to raise money. People around the area internally, Jay Stroman, the interim athletic director, was a very successful fundraiser at Georgia prior to arriving at USF. And last I checked, Georgia had some pretty good athletic success, especially in football. Another name that's been thrown around is Rob Higgins, who has just done wonders as the executive director of the Tampa Bay Sports Commission. He's brought every major national sporting event and some global sporting events to Tampa. They've been staged in our backyard, whether you're talking WrestleManias or Super Bowls or college football playoffs or women's Final Fours. And Rob, over time, has developed an enormous network of contacts with people on sports' biggest stages and in sports' biggest realms and associations. He's a USF guy through and through. Used to be the men's basketball team manager. He's an alumnus. Very engaging personality who I think would be very effective in raising money. There's a couple of outside candidates. I would keep my eye on a couple of associate ADs at Tennessee who are working under Danny White. Danny White did a great job at UCF, whether USF fans want to admit it or not. And at Tennessee, he is, I think Tennessee's athletic success, men's basketball,
right,
baseball, and of course football, speaks for itself over these last few years. People have given me a couple of names of associate ADs at Tennessee to keep an eye on. So there will be some external candidates. I'm sure this is going to be a national search. When it's going to be filled, I don't know. Fortunately, we're kind of in the lull period of the college sports calendar. But again, July 1st is coming, and that's when the revenue sharing era dawns. So I imagine it would be sooner rather than later, but I'm not certain.
Yeah, and now obviously needing a president too. It's kind of an interesting.
Right.
We're in a big time of change when it comes to South Florida. Do you, if you think, who do you think would it be better if it's in-house with the knowledge of the program, or do you think it's better, out and having some new ideas? What do you think would be better, Joey?
If Rhea Law were still the president, I think an internal candidate would be a no-brainer, or someone in the Bay Area. And I think that still might be the case. What I think has worked for USF in the last several years is they have a board of trustees and administration and coaches who are all on the same page, who are all aligned with a common purpose, and that's to really excel not only in academics but athletics. USF, what they did under Judy Genshaft in making academic strides speaks for itself. USF has made tremendous academic advances, but there are always rumblings about they could do better in athletics. Under Rhea Law, this board of trustees, this current set of coaches, they were aligned with a mission of getting athletics up to, if maybe not the same level academically, getting it near to where they are also elite academically. Well, I think that this board of trustees is going to find someone, a president, with that same kind of thinking. And obviously, when that president is hired, I don't know if it'll be before or after they hire an athletic director. Certainly, they're going to try to find administrators that are on the same page, who are all in line with, it's time to raise our profile athletically for the next round of realignment, whenever that comes, to give us the best opportunity to get into a power conference, whether that's the ACC, the Big Ten, the SEC, whatever that may be 5-7 years down the road.
Yeah, and that's something that really stood out to me. I think it was Will Weatherford that spoke at Brian Hodgson's press conference about that, about how other, you see, unfortunately, programs around the country getting rid of sports, and USF was, no, this is a priority for us going forward, and they understand the money that can be made, when you do this right. And especially that's the message that you have to send as you're building an on-campus stadium for South Florida. And also them putting out a social media post about this whole thing with the money that needs to go out. And man, you look at this, this entire system here, baseball, softball, Joey, they have to stay on the forefront here. With the athletics, they have to keep pushing, because at the very least, like, there's a lot of good coaches and there's a lot of good teams right now within the entire program.
Yeah. And from what I've heard, they send out this statement saying, we're ready. We're poised for the revenue sharing era. We're ready to be competitive. Everything I hear, that's just not lip service. They are poised to compete to a certain degree. Can they allocate $20.5 million annually to their athletes? Probably not. I mean, let's be realistic here. This is not a Power Four conference. The media rights revenue that USF gets annually pales in comparison to what, say, Florida gets from the SEC or Ohio State gets from the Big Ten. But from everything I've been told, they are financially positioned to be competitive where they're at. And there's a directive from the American Athletic Conference. The new commissioner, Tim Pernetti, has basically issued a directive that our schools over the next 3-year period are going to spend a total of $10 million in salary or money to its student athletes. How they dole that out over that 3 years is up to each school. $3 million the first year, $3 million the second year, $4 million the final year. But that's a directive that USF must comply with per AAC, standards. And from everything I've heard, USF is going to spend more than that. And, part of their revenue sharing includes fully funded scholarships now. Nice. And, you're a college baseball fan, Jay. Forever, college baseball programs have had to give out, distribute 12 scholarships among 25, 30 kids. Nobody in college baseball gets a full scholarship.
Yeah.
Now they can. So that's a huge boon to a guy like Mitch Hannes, the first-year Bulls baseball coach, or Ken Erickson, who's been the softball coach forever. So, I'm excited to see how this can elevate USF athletics. On the flip side of that, let's be realistic. Nobody's swimming in money. Nobody has a bottomless supply of money.
Right.
USF not only has to start paying its athletes to a certain degree, they still got to pay the mortgage on a new on-campus stadium.
Right.
How they're going to do that, once that stadium is up and running, there'll be some revenue streams there, concerts, presumably more ticket sales, naming rights for the stadium, but that's way off in the distance. How are they going to pay these athletes now? And that's why they need to bring in an athletic director whose main prerequisite, main advantage, number one criterion is being a quality fundraiser.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Joey, before I let you go, I want to ask you, because one of the things I love that you do with the Tampa Bay Times is you do such a great job at looking at the collective and looking at all the different sports and all the different coaches in our Bay Area. I wanted to get your 2 cents on what Joe Urso and the University of Tampa have done. 10th national championship. I was up there in Cary over the weekend, but for you that's been here in the Tampa Bay area and seen so many great teams and so many great coaches, how do you put into words the impact for him and the Spartans and just how good they are and, just the great spotlight they put on our community?
I think it's the greatest dynasty, college or pro, in Bay Area sports history. 10 national titles at that university. And how many for Joe now?
He's got 8 of the 10.
8 of the 10. And, it's not like he's doing it with the same nucleus every year. There are some guys, who are holdovers, but it's like every other place in the country. You've got to refurbish your roster every year, bring in new people, and hope those new people gel with your system and your philosophy and your culture. And Joe and Sam Militello, his right-handed man, they do it year after year after year. I think it's incredible what they do. I wish, they were held in higher profile by the Tampa Bay area in general as it stands. They're a Division II university. so that they don't get the attention that, certainly they warrant. But in my mind, it's the greatest sports dynasty, college or pro, that the Bay Area has ever seen. And I'll tell you what, I don't see an end in sight anytime soon.
You got that right, my friend. Yeah, it's pretty wild. He played and got one, and then now he's coached 7. He's got 8 of the 10. The one and only Joe Urso, the one and only Joey Knight. TV Times _Bulls. I say this a lot whenever we have our friends from the Tampa Bay Times on. Please support our local newspaper, the Tampa Bay Times. Subscribe today. Get it as a gift for somebody. Every little bit goes a long way. So please, again, support our friends at the Tampa Bay Times. Joey, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for making the show a whole hell of a lot better. Talk to you soon, buddy.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate you. Take care.
You got it, man. Joey Knight. Man, he is all over it, buddy. All over it. Yeah, he's right. I mean, and I got to find out more about the collectives too. I mean, the Fowler Avenue Collective and everybody that were able to put kind of money together to help out some of these athletes, because I knew that there were athletes in the Tampa Bay area, especially at USF, that were getting that NIL money. So if you're telling me that Tim Pernetti, the commissioner of the American Athletic Conference, is saying that USF has to spend $3 million a year at the very least, like that's not a problem. 20 a year, like some of these other schools, that ain't happening. But you never know. You never know with USF, because they're it's an ascending program. You want to be able to have money to be able to bring these athletes here, to keep these athletes here. And it's going to happen eventually. A couple of things are going to happen. We're going to see a change in the transfer portal in the next 2 years. There's going to be some type of rule or a law set. It's the wild, wild west. And there's so many kids that are just going in the transfer portal, and it's just like 1 year and another year. And it's just like, that's not good. That's not what we want. We want the kids to be able to go where they want, but there's got to be some type of loyalty. You're going to get to a point where these kids are going to have to sign contracts. It's the way it goes. And if they break that contract, they're going to have to give the money back or something. There's going to be an out clause. Like, if you're going to be paid like professionals, you're going to be treated as such, and you're going to have to, things are going to change. And there's going to be super conferences before you know. It's just the way it goes. Great stuff there from our pal Joey Knight. Let's see. Greg Allman letting everybody know that Roman Perotti, got a pick off of Baker Mayfield's Zion McCollum. I did see also that, who was it? Jamel Dean did have one. I think it was on a tipped ball. I know we were talking about him and the lack of him being able to pick off some of these passes, but it's just, he's going to get a couple. It's not like he's not going to get any. Let's see. I want to get some more videos in here for you guys. Hassan Reddick. That was the big one. Happy birthday to Coach Josh Rizar, the OC of our Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Everybody posted the same video. Looking at Rick Stroud, looking at Peter Report, looking at Greg Allman, everybody posted the same video about Hassan Reddick and his response to why he wasn't there. Jenna Lane, Jamel Dean had a pick 6. That was right before I left today. We've seen guys getting their hands on a lot more balls this year in practice. Just 7 interceptions last year. That was good. It's good. I love that. You're going to need contribution from everybody. Again, are you going to get 5, 6, and 7 for Jamel? Probably not. If he gets a couple, that's great. That's great. And I know somebody said, who was it? Hold on, guys. I want to go back up to, Chance Attaway. Super Bowl loading. I tell you what, when you look across the National Football League and you look at how many people or how many teams are dealing with all right, this guy's not here and this guy's hurt, this guy's holding out. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot. But for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, like, what was the only drama? And it wasn't even the only drama for the Bucs at mandatory minicamp wasn't even drama. It was Hassan Reddick. Not worried at all. The only thing that's going to hurt the Bucs this year is issues with health. That's it. Because when I watch this team, I do not see many big time issues at all. And if they can stay healthy, watch out. Watch out. And I like what I'm hearing from Baker Mayfield, and I like what I'm hearing without the organization. I see I dropped a little lightning organization in there on you. I love high expectations. I want more of that. I want more high expectations when it comes to the Buccaneers. And it doesn't mean you're just like, oh, everybody's playing for the Super Bowl. No, it's about getting better. It's about being one of the last teams standing. You heard it from Baker Mayfield yesterday. This is a good enough team to make a deep playoff run. Is it a good enough team to win the Super Bowl? That remains to be seen because there are still questions on defense. They got to prove it. But for all the guys that you brought in via the draft, via free agency, if you can get 85% of the production you think you're going to get, this team's going to be even better this season than they were last year. You're talking about a team that's been making the playoffs. But you have to take a step forward. You have to. I think they got the guys, man. You need to have guys, not JAG, the Jags, just another guy. You need to have dudes. You need to have guys where multiple players are able to make a play. And we see that with the great teams. We see that with the great teams in any sport. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles and look at how many different defensive players made plays last year. Whether it was guys on the defensive line, whether it was guys in the secondary, linebacker position. Even if you lose a guy like you did with Nakobe Dean, here comes Zach Bond coming in making plays, right? Defensive line, there were so many different guys. Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. There's just so many different guys that can make a play. Look at what the Tampa Bay Lightning. When they made their run to the cup, it wasn't Kucherov, it wasn't Point, it wasn't Stammer that scored the game winner in 2021. It was Ross Colton off of a pass from David Savard. Everybody, Gore, Goodrow, Coleman, Belmar, Maroon, like all these different guys that contributed to the success. Sorelli, Point, Stamkos, Kucherov, right? Those guys. That's what it has to be with the Bucs this year. It's got to be, Bucky and Mike and Chris and Baker. But it's got to be Devin Culp. It's got to be Emeka Ibuka. It's got to be Jalen McMillan. Defensive side of the ball. It's not just going to be Levante David and Vita Vea and Hassan Reddick. You're going to need contributions from Anthony Nelson. You're going to need contributions from guys in the secondary. You're going to need Antoine Winfield Jr. to play big. You're going to need Zion McCollum and the young kids, Morrison and Parrish. It's just a lot of dudes. It's a lot of dudes and a lot of talent. They got to be able to bring it in. You got it, Eric. You got it, pal. Always supporting you and the family. Goodrow, Shattenkirk, Jan Ruda. This is a good question. Was Jan Ruda Hetty's best D partner ever? Speaking of that, it's so funny that you asked that. One of Hetty's defensive partners actually just texted me, not Jan Ruda. Was Jan Ruda Hetty's best D partner ever? I'm going to go with yes right now. I'm going to go yes. Strawman was good, and they were really close too. But Jan Ruda, there was just something about him where if you watch Jan get with anybody else or even Jan on any other team, wasn't great in Chicago, wasn't great in Pittsburgh, but he was damn good as Victor Hedman's D partner. And that is why it's important to go to games. And people will ask about any sport, and they'll say, you can cover these teams from home. You have to go to games and blah, 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 blah. I'm sure you can. I don't subscribe to that because I think going to the game gives you a different perspective. And it's not just the perspective. And people will say initially like, oh, well, you get to talk to the players. Yes, that's a huge part of it. But Jan Ruda is a perfect example. Benny, I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't get it. I didn't get the Jan Ruda thing. Why is he playing with arguably the best defenseman on the planet? I didn't understand. A lot of people didn't understand. Why the hell is Jan Ruda there? And then I sat there for an entire game, and every single shift for Jan Ruda, I watched him. Eagle eye. There was times where I didn't even follow the puck. I was like, I am going to watch Jan Ruda. Why the hell is he out there? And as I'm sitting there, I'm watching Onruda. It didn't take me but a few shifts, and I go, this guy doesn't make any mistakes. This guy is never in the wrong spot, ever. And you see Victor Hedman, Hetty plays defense like your 5-year-old soccer team plays. Around, a figure eight. It's almost like the infinity symbol. But he can do that. He can go in the right corner, the left defenseman. He can go in the right corner and skate his ass all the way back and thwart a defense. Play a fantastic job in thwarting the attack from the other team. But for that to happen and for that to be successful, you have to have a defenseman that doesn't freak out, doesn't try to overexert himself, doesn't try to make up for what Hetty is doing. He's a guy that just stays on his side, up and back, and up and back, and up and back, make a pass and go in and step in and be able to step up at the blue line, to be able to dump the puck in, to be able to get the puck out, make a good first pass out of the defensive zone. And as I'm watching Jan Ruda, every single time he had an opportunity to do something, he did it well. He's not a big hitter. He's not going to score a bunch of goals, even though he did in the Stanley Cup final. And when you watch him, you're not going to get it on TV because you don't see it. He doesn't have the puck on his stick a bunch. He is a really, really – he was a really, really great compliment to Victor Hedman. And now we're seeing a guy like J.J. Moser who does it a different way. He's a left-handed defenseman playing on the right side. He actually can move over a little bit. He actually moves around a little bit more than Jan Ruda did. And it's a different style, and it's a different way of playing. And I know that we look at athletes, and we see this in football too, and you're like, this guy's better than this guy, so why is this guy playing? It's not always about that. It's about the scheme. It's about who you're playing with. Eric Chernak is a damn good player, and if you tell me who's a better player, like Eric Chernak or Jan Ruda, it's not close. But Eric Chernak could not play with Victor Hedman because he was not as aggressive, because he was worried that if he stepped up and tried to play a physical game and tried to lay the body on somebody, that then he would be out of position. And sometimes he was when he did that. And then you have no defenseman back. It didn't work. So is Eric Chernak a better player than Jan Ruda? Yes. But him in that system with Victor Hedman was not a good pairing. Now you look at Eric Chernak with Ryan McDonough and you go, holy shit, this guy's a freaking monster. And that is one of the best pairings in the league. Why? Is because Ryan McDonough is not a guy like Victor Hedman that's going to go all over the place. He's going to stay on his left side. He's going to make every right play. He's going to block shots. He's going to do all the good things. And Eric Chernak can be himself. He can go get the puck. He can, all right, I'm going to step up and take the body. And if I don't get the guy and it's a 2-on-1, I have trust that my guy's going to be able to, make the play defensively. That's why I'm interested to see what happens with a guy like JTS going to Cleveland. In a different scheme with some different players, with the more established pass rusher and a guy like Myles Garrett, do we see a different JTS? I don't know, because I think that's probably too much of a jump. But we go back to the Jamel Dean conversation. Jamel Dean, a bigger guy that loves to play press coverage, is he going to have a good year this year? Now that you have a better pass rush, you have more guys that can play with you. Your scheme's going to be different. You're going to play more of the press coverage. And I know Todd Bowles acts like, oh yeah, he had to wait to see it on tape. He knew. He had to adjust all these different things with his defense because he wasn't getting home with 4. You know what Todd likes to do. You saw it. And as much as there's going to be a difference between Todd Bowles, the defensive coordinator, and Todd Bowles, the head coach, one thing you're going to see with Todd, when his pass rushers are up there and they get to the quarterback with 4, you're going to see Todd doing some crazy shit. You're going to see him dropping Vita Vea in coverage. You're just going to see that. But when you look at the defense, when Todd was just the DC, when he had JPP, when he had Ndamukong Suh, when he had Shaq Barrett, when he had Vita Vea, shit, man, that was the defense that helped his team win a Super Bowl. Could this defense be more? Because I think this is going to be the defense that is going to be more similar to the Super Bowl winning defense than the one we've seen the last couple of years. And if that's the case, combined with a phenomenal rushing attack, your offensive line that's stellar across the board, and how many wide receivers? Evans, Godwin, McMillan, Abuka. That's 4, right? Then you'll go, let's go Sterling Shepard, 5. We'll go Raheem Jarrett, 6. Ryan Miller, 7. Am I leaving anybody out? Yeah, it's 7 guys that you have that can be big-time contributors to this team. 7 guys. And you're going to keep 4, so a couple of those guys are going to go in the practice squad. It's exciting. It's exciting, this Buccaneers team. Just, again, everybody knock on wood. Everybody pray to the football gods. You guys just have to stay healthy. And if they can stay healthy, I mean, my goodness, watch out. Todd Bowles saying Logan Hall had 5 sacks last year, and he was not part of the Bucs' third down defense. That may change this year. He is a guy that doesn't get enough attention, but he's a good player. He reminds you of a guy like Will Golston. He's huge. He's such an imposing figure. And another guy that he's in the right spot. The coaches really, really like him, and he comes up with big plays, and he's another guy that's going to benefit from Hassan Reddick being there and taking some of the pressure. Once you start changing your blocking scheme because a guy's consistently getting to the quarterback, it's going to open things up for everybody else. Palmer, Cam Johnson, 9 guys, dude. 9 guys. Think about that. That's nuts. Usually I would be against trading guys with a surplus at a position. I wouldn't be against the Bucs trading Trey Palmer. I wouldn't. I don't think everything that he's going to give you get from somebody else. Everybody. I wouldn't be opposed to moving on from him. Because if you're going to have to go to your second and third tier guys, Tej Johnson. Okay, still Tej Johnson, but Cam is in there as well. Tez is going to have, he dropped the punt today. I don't know if many people said that. One of the first punts, he dropped it, which wasn't great. So as much as he's shifty as hell, and I know that was something that I mentioned on the podcast yesterday, of he is a guy at the line of scrimmage that is just it's a lot to handle, but he's not blocking anybody. So he's not going to be out there a ton, but maybe you're out there on a 3rd and 1 where you run a play like that, where he's a guy that kind of goes down the line of scrimmage and zips back. Nobody's going to be able to catch him. I wouldn't count on Tej Johnson being a focal point when it comes to the passing game. Is there going to be a play or two, I think, in every game that might have his number on it? Yeah, because he's unbelievable in open space. But he's got to make sure he takes care of the football. And there's just a lot of guys in front of him. Freaking 9 guys. Evolve official. I cannot wait until toe meets leather. You got that right. I just can't wait to hear from Gene Deckerhoff. There's just something about it, man. There really is. And I know Todd Bowles said rookie receiver Tej Johnson has a chance to play a vital role in the offense if he continues as he's shown earlier on this summer. Yeah, a vital role. We get that. Vital role. It's something to say now. But what does a vital role mean? Right? A vital role. Is Tej Johnson going to play more than Jalen McMillan or Emeka Abuka? No. So at the very best, he's the 5th receiver on this team. Something to keep under your hat as we go forward. All right, let's talk a little Rays baseball before JC Allen joins us at 1:15 today. The Rays lose 3-1 to the Boston Red Sox last night. And listen, after what they've been able to do these last couple of games, in the last couple of weeks, really finding their groove, I no issues with the game last night. None. You lose 3-1, you give up 2 in the first, but Ryan Pepio, who did not have his best, I think when you look at what he was able to do last night, that is going to go so far when it, and I'm not saying they didn't think this in the first place, but the dude was sick. He had a sore throat. He just did not have it. You could tell, and he was fighting and he was grinding through it. And when you do that, the message that you send to your team, it's something that it resonates with you and it doesn't leave. The fact that he was not feeling as well as he was, and he gave you 5 2/3 innings, and he threw 108 pitches. People walk out of that game last night, and I'm talking about members of the Tampa Bay Rays, and go, bro, thank you. Thank you for what you were able to do. Not only do you help them when it comes to, it was just him and Engler that pitched last night. So you lose a game. You only use 2 pitchers. You save the rest of your bullpen. You go 5 2/3. But the fact that you were able to pitch when you weren't 100%, he's a bulldog. Ryan Pepio is the guy in this rotation that is going to give you every single last drop of energy and emotion that he has. 5 2/3. The line doesn't even really look that bad. 5 hits, 3 runs, only 2 walks. He struck out 9, gave up the solo home run to Story, and then give up the hit to Anthony, right? I mean, a couple of ribbies for the kid. I mean, Giolito, 6 innings, 3 hits, only gave up 1 unearned run, and then Whitlock and Weiser do the rest. That was not one of those standard 3-1 games where you look at the Rays and like, oh, man, that was not. They were grinding out these ABs. They were doing everything they could. They struck out 7 times. They were putting the ball in play. When you look at Boston, they struck out 13 times last night. You're going to have games like this. And I am not shy of criticizing the Rays when things go wrong. I'm not shy of criticizing this team when I don't think that the effort is there and they're not putting their best foot forward. I didn't see that last night watching that game. I saw a team that you ran up against a good pitcher. I saw a starting pitcher for your team that was giving it all he had. These are the things that don't show up in the box score. Everybody always wants to compute these numbers and tell you why this guy was good and this is why this team should have won and this is why. Oh my God, just watch the freaking game. Watch the game with your eyes. Watch the game with your eyes. See the type of effort that these guys are putting in. So knowing that a guy like Ryan Pepio left it all on the line last night, that type of confidence that his team has in him going forward, it's immeasurable. What he was able to do by pitching into the 6th inning is going to help his bullpen. So when you go into tonight's game against the Boston Red Sox and the final game of the 3-game set, everybody's available out of the pen. A 7-10 start tonight for our guys up there in Beantown against the Red Sox before a day off and then heading to Queens to take on the Mets in a 3-game series. Walker Buehler on the mound for the Red Sox. They are 33-36. He's 4-4 with a 5.18 ERA, a whip of 144. The World Series champion from last year, the Los Angeles Dodgers. He will be countered by Zach Littell, 6-5 with a 3.68 ERA, a whip of 109. Rays now 36-31. They dropped the game last night after the Yankees beat the Royals 10-2, I believe it was. Watching that game, switching back for everything that was going on when those 2 games and the soccer match against Switzerland. Yankees, I mean, Aaron Judge, that ball he hit in the first inning. Holy shit, that thing was tattooed. And really cool to see Jack Caglione out there for the Royals. Preston Ursos, Joe's son, out there for the first 2 home games for him, which is really nice. Really cool to see him out there. But yeah, the AL East, you want to be able to keep that Red Sox team down. Zach Littell, who I thought struggling early on in the year, it looked like he was a prime candidate of, okay, are they going to release him? Is he the guy that is coming to the end when it comes to his tenure with the Tampa Bay Rays? And he's been so much better these last couple of outings. It's been very fun to watch him do his thing. We know the U.S. Open is starting tomorrow. Who do you pick? How do you go against Scotty Scheffler? And for the Valspar fantasy golf thing where you're only allowed to pick one golfer every year, right? One golfer for each tournament. I went with Scotty Scheffler. I've been saving Scotty Scheffler, and everybody keeps saying how tough this course is. So why not go with Scotty? Why not go with Scotty, right? Oakmont is a pain in the ass. Listening to Justin Johnson talk about how tough the course is, he doesn't even know which one is number 2. But man, I love where it's difficult, whether it's U.S. Open or the Open Championship, whether it's the roughs or the quick greens or the weather. I like when the winner's like 3 or 4 or 5 under, and it's a pain in the ass for these guys to, make par. It's a major. It's supposed to be difficult. It's supposed to be different. I can't wait. Tomorrow's going to be amazing. Tiger Woods says U.S. Open favors long hitters, short irons. I wish he was out there. I really do. I wish he would be out there and to play with the guys. That'd be great. The situation with the Cincinnati Bengals. I wanted to talk about this too. So I don't know if you saw this yesterday, but Shamar Stewart, their first round pick, spoke at length with some of the media there in Cincinnati about the contract issues, and he's going to work out, but he is also not going to take part in some of these on-field activities. And you go, okay, why? And for a long time, people were looking at this and going, all right, well, it's just a normal thing. It's just another player. He's not out there. He doesn't care about his team, blah, blah, blah. And the player catches a lot of heat, especially a rookie. But Cincinnati has inserted something into this guy's contract where it says if something happens in 1 year, the rest of his deal gets voided. Like, what are you talking about? This is something that they're trying to pull the wool over the eyes of not just the player, but also a young agent that he has too. And yesterday I'm looking at social media and Pat McAfee is just like roasting this agent. I mean, good on Pat for going on air yesterday and coming out and saying like, hey, I didn't really know this entire thing. And good on Stewart and good on his agent for not, succumbing to what Cincinnati is trying to do. Some shady shit, inserting something into the contract where they can get out of this if something happens in one season. We have to be very careful when we don't know the whole story. And I'm guilty of it too. I think everybody is that covers sports in any form or fashion. But to sit here and say this guy's this or this guy's that, like when you don't know the whole story, even now, go look on social media. When anybody talks about that, there's still people that are saying, players nowadays, this agent doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Well, do some research on what actually happened. If you're a young agent, are you setting that precedent? Not just for your player, but every other player that you come across and you represent? Hell no. Hell no. The NFL stands for not for long. And when you get into a situation where you could set the precedent and a negative precedent down the road for players, you don't want that stigma. You don't want that on your resume or anything. That's not good. The NFL does some shady shit when it comes to the players, man. We talk about this a lot when it comes to the health. But, man, it's strange. It really is. And it sucks, too, because with football such a popular sport, they do so many things to just alienate people. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, people are still going to tune into Sundays, still going to watch the Super Bowl, but it is kind of wild that you get to a point where you're looking at the NFL and you're looking at how they treat their players and you're looking at, how many games they play and how many holdouts there are. And people, it doesn't matter. People don't really care. Like, it's strange, man. It really is. The NFL, when you look at how many, something's got to be done. And I don't know if it's something that's ever really going to change. But why do we have to, and I'm with you, Ren, Cincinnati has to be one of the worst in the big four sports because they're not paying Trey Hendrickson either. And Stewart said Hendrickson is 1% wrong because he is under contract. I'm 100% right. This guy was just roasting the front office yesterday. But there's got to be something with this sport, knowing that there is no guaranteed, there is guaranteed money, but not every contract is a guaranteed contract. But we got to get to some point in the National Football League where we're not having this conversation every single year of TJ Watt and Tyreek Hill and this guy and that guy and that guy holding out and this guy holding out. Like, you don't get that in the other sports. You'll get a random holdout here or there, but nothing like this where it's expected. It's not a surprise. You're not shocked every single season. I'd be more shocked if nobody held out when it comes to the National Football League. And as much as I say, hey, they need to make sure that they do, they eliminate this. part of me thinks that the NFL does things on purpose to keep them in the conversation. Why fix it? People are still talking about the NFL. Even though mandatory minicamp is dominating a lot of the headlines, like, would they be dominating headlines if everybody showed up? Think about it. What is everybody talking about when it comes to the NFL? It's Hassan Reddick, right? As far as like our local stuff, it's TJ Watt, it's Aaron Rodgers, it's Stewart, like it's Trey Hendrickson, it's Tyreek Hill, it's Jonnu Smith, right? Look at all the stories when it comes to the NFL on ESPN, when it comes to Pro Football Focus, Pro Football Talk, this guy not being here, guy not being here, this guy, he showed up, right? I don't know. As much as I would say, hey, that's got to go away for the betterment of the sport, does it? Do they really need to care? Do they really need to make sure that it's almost like any publicity is good publicity. Look no further than the NFL. Tried and true every single year. Not always good, but they're going to stay on the tip of your tongue, and you're going to talk about it. We're going to be joined by our guy, JC Allen from Bucs Game Day here in a moment. Just text him. He will join in on the program. Make sure everything is right here. Saw him over at camp today. A lot of people out there for Buccaneers mandatory minicamp. It's really cool to see how many different media members out there. We have our Tampa folks. We have some of the people from Orlando and some farther down south as well. We see that during training camp as well, but mandatory minicamp, especially that first day, it is cool to be back out there. And speaking with some of the Bucs PR people today, it's just a sense of normalcy when we get out there, and it was a hot one. It always is, but just wait till training camp, because when training camp comes, holy smokes, it is day after day after day. And yes, I plan on being out there as well, as always. And appreciate you, Lady Evil. Go Bucs. Thanks for the great coverage. And yes, back out there tomorrow, 3 days for mandatory minicamp. So the final day tomorrow, same thing, same schedule. Out there, will be allowed on the field at 9:30, and then I'll head home probably 10:45 or so, and then go from there. I'm working on some big guests for tomorrow's show, and today is episode number 100 on the Jay Recher Podcast, episode 100. Incredible. After doing some shows on Mondays and Fridays, to really have this as an everyday thing, and all the support from you guys, I can't thank you enough. It has been awesome, and we're going to continue rolling. Really, I mean, the partnerships are now rolling in. You're going to start seeing some different stuff when it comes to the backgrounds. We're going to see some different things when it comes to the logos and the different people that are going to be partnered up with us. Sky's the limit. Sky's the limit. Of course, I'm getting back into coaching, so that's going to be a big part of the summer for me. I got some other things in the works too, which is really, really cool. But I'm not slowing down. It's going to continue going and, making money. And that's why when I ask you guys about the super chats, everybody that contributes $2, $5, $10, every little bit helps, man. It really does, to keep this train rolling. And my coverage and my access is going to stay top notch. Rowdies, USF, Lightning, Bucks. I'm not going to say Rays because we know how the Rays are, but, yeah, what you guys want to hear and what you want to see, that's the way it's going to go. I'll be coaching with my friends at Hit Factories Baseball, so I'll be traveling over the summer. Shout out to Nenad Matic. Go Bucks from Serbia. Appreciate you for tuning in, my friend. So, yeah, coaching baseball, that'll start actually this weekend down in Bradenton at the IMG Academy, because it never, ever stops. And neither does our Bucks coverage and our conversation with JC Allen, Bucks Game Day, the unbeatable JC Allen of Bucks Game Day. You like that, bro? Come on, special just for you.
No eat. I'm in my son's room, so you can see we're all set up. It was crazy getting out of there. You know how it goes at training camp.
Man.
These people take forever to come to their pressers, and then I had to fly up home. There was an accident. I'm like, but I'm here.
You're here now, buddy. That's all that counts. You're here now. Biggest takeaway from Bucks mandatory minicamp through 2 days. What do you got?
The front's going to be scary. The front four is going to be scary, man.
JC, I keep trying to look away from it. I keep it was the first thing we saw yesterday because they were in the corner, and my video I took, Vita was like messing around. It was so funny.
It was so funny.
But like, as much as I want to not look over there, watching Hassan Reddick in the bend today, watching him yuck it up with Vita Vea and those guys, and just look, it just, even Logan Hall, because he's so freaking imposing. It's hard not to look at the defensive line and think, my God, man, if they're just a fraction of how good we think they can be, I mean, this defense is going to be scary. You combine it with the offense that we know had success last year. I mean, my goodness, sky's the limit for these guys.
Yeah, and then you get him yesterday. You saw him with Desmond Watson down there yesterday. You're like, oh my God, if he can lose some weight, make the team, like, good push this. But no, man, I think they're in a position now where they've got guys. They've got a guy who's been there before, done that, and Hassan Reddick. Yes, last year it's a wash to me. I don't hold nothing against the Jets. Are just a miserable organization. But I think he's in a place now. We talked to him today after practice where he's hungry. He's motivated. Rashad White said it yesterday at his press conference. This team is starving, and he's another one of these guys who's starving. You got to remember, he requested a trade from the Eagles last year, went to the Jets. Eagles won the Super Bowl last year. So there's no like more salt in the wound than that. Like, you know, he's been in Arizona, he's been in Carolina. Those teams have stunk. So I watched the team that you were part of not want to reward you for what you've done and then trade you and then have the Jets do the Jets and then that team win a Super Bowl. That pisses you off. That makes you hungry. And I think Hassan's coming in here extremely ready to go. And the opportunity that he's going to bring to a guy like Yaya Diaby to free him up from seeing all those double teams. And then, you know, then you talk about Vita and Kalijah. Like, who do you double team on the front seven? And you know Todd's going to get crazy and he'll have like an extra edge rusher, or he'll throw Logan Hall in there, or he'll bring – he already did it yesterday. He had Savasier Dennis and Anthony Walker playing as the two down linemen at the 3-tech spots. Like, what are you doing, guy? You know, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm with you. And let's not forget some of the young kids, Roberts and Walker, and Anthony Nelson, right? Nelly's always the guy that's going to come up with the big
sacks. Back-to-back sacks in 2 days. You know, he's getting in the backfield.
Amazing. I know that they are happy with their inside linebackers, with those off-ball linebackers. I still have trepidation. That's my only issue that I have with this team is I look at Anthony Walker. He doesn't look like the biggest guy in the world. We know Savasier Dennis. He does, I know, right? Savasier Dennis, we know that he can play the position. It just comes down to his health. And then, of course, Levante. But where is your trepidation? Where is your fear factor when it comes to that position? Would you agree that that's kind of the one position group that you're worried about the most?
You know, I was actually, it's funny. I was talking to Greg Allman and Rick Stroud, two frequent guests of yours, and obviously
those guys know a little thing or two.
They know something or two, and like we were talking about, is like, yeah, there's still a little bit of trepidation there, but compared to last year, you're in such a better position. You know, you were having JJ Russell and KJ Britt and Antonio Greer Jr. Now you have guys who have played. You know, Deion Jones is a Pro Bowl linebacker, and he's your linebacker 4, and he's making plays out in practice, making crazy interceptions. And you know, Anthony Walker, another guy who started 80-something odd games. Like, so you're not going from, okay, if something happens to Dennis, something happens to Levante, you're not going to a guy with 0 game experience to come in, or very few. You know, JJ Russell had 1 game. You know, that's it. And that's the only game he's ever been. So, you know, if Dennis can stay healthy, again, you know, we talked to Dennis last week, and I said, you know, how does it feel that people are clamoring for your coverage when coming out of the draft? Everyone's biggest question on you was, can you cover? Because you had 9 sacks, and now everyone's like, man, if we just get Dennis out there and his coverage ability. So it just shows you, like, the shoulder injury is cleaned up. I think he's going to be fine. There's definitely, you know, if something happens, you don't love it, but I think you're in a much better spot this year than last year. For me, those spots and we all held our collective breath yesterday when K. Dotton and Antoine Winfield Jr., they collided in the end zone on goal line work, and they were fine. But like, you're like, that's the position right now that you cannot afford to lose anyone at. If you lose Antoine Winfield Jr. or K. Dotton, the depth behind them is scary. You got Payne Durham, Devin Culp. And then you've got Tyke Smith, who's learning the safety position. Christian Isian, who's still not practicing because he's coming back from a torn pec. and then Kayvon Merriweather, who was released midseason, and a bunch of undrafted free agents. So those two spots to me are a little bit more worrisome if something happens than off-ball linebacker.
Okay, good. I like that. I like the tight end spot. I thought Payne Durham and Devin Culp showed a lot last year.
I do too.
People thought that they can't block, and I was like, bro, I think one of the biggest blocks of the year. It was I think it was on the goal line. I want to say it was a Bucky Irving touchdown run, and it was just one of those wham blocks where Payne Durham came around and just smoked the defensive tackle, and I was like, dude, you can't block. People say, and he crumpled his ass, and I'm like, wow, that's really cool. And Devin Culp is he's like a wild stallion out there. He can run. It's amazing. So if they can block a little bit, I think he could be a factor but I'm with you on the safety spot because
I'm just worried more so if Cade goes down to injury, right. Can Payne Durham be a tight end 1? Can Devin Culp be a tight end 1 over a 6-7 game week?
Right.
Whereas I think both of them can be tremendous tight end 2s. Same thing with safety. Like, I like the rooms. I really like Devin Culp. I think Culp is going to make this team. And I think if they have to choose between tight ends, that Keith would probably, boot it off. Although he's got a specific role in this team too. But I really like Devin Culp this year to break out and Payne Durham to continue. It's just I don't love the depth of having a guy that can come in and be that guy. But that's the league, though. Tight end is one of those spots where there's maybe 5 guys that are top guys, and the rest of them are all in this bunch kind of, and then you have the trash guys.
Yeah, we know about top guys, FTR, on and out.
Oh, yeah.
When I look at this team and I look at the offensive line, we know where the anchors are. Any concern about Tristan Wirfs not practicing in that big old brace on his leg?
There's always concern when Tristan Wirfs, the only player in NFL history to win an All-Pro at both right tackle and left tackle, is not practicing. But we talked to him last week. I talked to him last week. He was doing the cut for color. He wasn't at OTAs, but he didn't have it on then. And, he was just like, just working out. I've been out here when media's not here, but I look out the window, I see the media. I'm going to get my training in inside. It's voluntary, so it doesn't have to be there. But it's one of those things where, it's a concern always. But I don't think it's something that is going to carry over into training camp. I don't think anyone who's dealing with things right now that haven't been practicing are things that will carry over to training camp. As of right now, I think maybe Silas Zanzi. I don't know where he's at in his recovery. And obviously Chris Godwin, but everybody else who's kind of nicked up, I think everyone should be ready in a month and a half when training camp rolls around.
B. Malk, I don't know if you're related to Cody Malk or not. I think we are set on the starters, but what are your thoughts on the depth of the offensive line?
You know what, Jay? I came in here and wanted to talk about the depth of the offensive line. I really did. I was driving home like, I want to talk about the depth.
Nice.
Because B. Malk, if you're Cody's great. His recovery skills are some of the best in the NFL, and it's been awesome to continue to see him level up, and I expect another jump into that top echelon of top 15 guards, regardless of side in the league for Cody this year, much like Luke did last year, where Luke is a top 10 tackle, regardless of side, in my opinion, in the league. I expect that for Cody, but the depth, it's questionable, right? Because you look at there's not the names. You lost Justin School. You brought in Charlie Heck to be a swing tackle. Elijah Klein is someone the Bucs are really excited about, who's developed behind the scenes, can play guard, can play center. We saw him play tackle in a pinch in the preseason with like 24 hours notice. You're not going to put him there. But Sue Opeta is back, who is firmly in that competition throughout minicamp and OTAs until he suffered the ACL in training camp, which gave way to Ben Bredesen. But the new guys, man, those guys I'm excited about, but the new guys, Jake Majors, the undrafted free agent center out of Texas. I've said it a million times. I love the way he calls his huddle. It's just like, it's very like loud, guttural, and it's like, we're playing football, and it's
I like that.
He's been taking center 2 reps with Kyle Trask and the offensive line number 2. And that's been going on since media was allowed at OTAs. He's very smart, very instinctive. Pass protection could use a little bit of work, but I felt like that's been the Achilles heel of most of the Bucs centers the last couple of years. Whether it's besides Jensen, obviously, but Hainsey and Barton struggled a little bit last year. But I mean, this is a guy. I think he's got the smarts ability. I think he's probably. I would almost lock him in. I have a feeling I would almost lock him in to that. Because the Bucs generally keep 9 to 10 offensive linemen. You have your top 5, obviously. Then you have Heck. Then you have Klein. Then, those last 3 spots, if 9 or 10, I think Jake Majors gets one. And the other guy who I'm excited about is Ben Chukwuma, too.
Mhm.
He's the guy they got from Georgia Tech, gave him the most guaranteed money
Yeah.
of anybody. Super raw, but athletic, big, physical, nasty. And it was someone that we talked to Luke Edeke today, and he singled him out right away and said, they call him Chuk. Ben Chukwuma, he's a guy who's really impressed me so far, really raw, but you can tell he's this ball of clay. Mold him how you want. He doesn't have many bad habits because he's only played 2 years of football on the offensive line. So Carb's going to have fun developing him. He can make the roster right out the gate, but definitely after the guarantees, a spot on the practice squad is pretty much guaranteed. Ben Scott's another guy who I think is impressive too. Played mostly center at Nebraska, but has been playing a lot of guard, giving him that flexibility right there. So they're in a good spot. I feel like more so after seeing the last couple of days and last couple of weeks of OTAs, more so than I thought originally. I think there's a lot to work with Jake Majors there, and they've got a lot of depth that I think can play along the line, which gives you a lot of flexibility as well.
I am Cody's uncle. Look at that. Beat him out.
Hey.
Appreciate
I
that.
think that's Ben. I think Ben follows me on Twitter, I think. So what's up, Ben? How we doing?
Appreciate you, buddy. That is awesome, man. When you look at this team, obviously we know turnovers is going to have to be a big part of it because the picks and the low number with 7 last year. And you can't count them in camp because they've
been coming though. They've been coming.
But I've
3
seen them
today.
I've seen a bunch in camp the last couple of years, and it don't mean jack diddly squat when it comes to the regular season as much as I would hope so. It's so funny. This is the year, and I guess you have to go to training camp for 10 years before you realize stuff like this. Every year, I'm like, man, that wide receiver looks good, man. He's going to be okay. And it's just like,
oh my God, the ghost of Jalen Darden passed.
Jalen Darden. There was Chris Owosu. There was a lot of different guys.
Man, Jalen Darden, that 2021 season, like we were talking about him, like he's running routes like AB.
Who was the guy today? Oh, Dennis Houston today.
Yeah.
That was the guy I was keeping an eye on. Keep an eye on him. Dennis Houston's going to be a guy. Watch him. He's wide receiver 13 probably.
Yeah,
right now.
He's
looking forward to I look at the corner position, right? And I look at how they're going to deploy the entire secondary. We just mentioned the safety and the question about the depth. Whether people like Jamel Dean or not, he's starting this team.
Interception today.
Interception today, pick 6. But it's going to be Dean on one side. It's going to be McCollum on the other side. And it looks like Parrish is going to have the inside look right now when it comes to nickel, with Tyke going back to the other spot opposite of Antoine Winfield Jr. So where does that leave everybody else? Where does that leave the rest of the secondary? How do you see that depth going, whether it's the Izzy inside on the safety side of the ball or Morrison on the corner side? How do you see that whole entire secondary shaking out week 1? I know it's still early.
Yeah, well, it's tough because the Bucs generally keep 10 defensive backs with a mix of safeties and corners. And usually for the last couple of years, it's been 6 and 4. So 6 corners, 4 safeties. So if you go by that math and you just put up the starters there right away, you've got 5 locked down, and Dean, McCollum, Tyke, Antoine, and likely Jacob Parrish. He's been making plays, had another dropped interception today. He had one yesterday too. This one was a gift. It was right in his breadbasket. I don't know what Baker was thinking on the play, but like light into his stomach. And I think he was surprised it came to him because he just because it came all the way. He's a hands catcher. It came all the way in his stomach. I think he was just like, wait, this is what's happening. And it dropped it. But again, right place, right time, making interceptions. I think he's probably the nickel cornerback. And then you're looking at it like, okay, who's the backup? Safeties, Christian Izzian, who can play corner and safety. It's where do you put him, right? So you put him over at safety because he's been cross-training in there. He's obviously played there a lot too. So you put him at safety. That gives you one spot traditionally for that last safety, which is going to come down to an intense battle between Kayvon Merriweather, who they released mid-season, signed with the Detroit Lions, and then re-signed. And he really played well. They were really happy with his play down the end of the season. Rashad Wisdom, who made some plays and was shouted out by Coach Bowles today. He's an undrafted guy from last year. Marcus Banks, undrafted guy from last year. And the 2 newcomers, everyone wants to talk about Shiloh Sanders, primetime son. And but JJ Roberts is one who's going under the bus too. And unless you've been listening to me, JJ Roberts is a guy you should know. I think he's got a possibility at making this team. He runs like a corner, hits like a safety, can play nickel, played corner, a lot of pass breakups, not a ton of interceptions, but a lot of pass breakups. He's one of the guys I think you could see compete for that final spot with the other guys I mentioned. Corner is a little difficult because they drafted 2. They have starting 2. You got 4 already, and there's a possibility that maybe Morrison, throughout the season overtakes Dean at some point. But those last 2 spots are going to be interesting to see what they do. Do they want to go with more of a developmental, or do they want to just make sure, hey, let's have veteran depth because we got screwed here? Right. Kendall Vildor was shouted out by Todd Bowles last year. He's the veteran that they brought in. They also brought back Bryce Hall, who had an interception yesterday. And then they have the young guys, Josh Hayes from last year, Tyreek Funderburk from last year, and this kid Roman Parody, who they signed as an undrafted free agent. And I was like, yeah, can't body, whatever. But he's steadily been making plays. He's had a couple interceptions today. He had another one, pick 6. It was a really good tight window throw. He just jumped and took it down the sideline. So they've got some options there. How that plays out, it really depends on what they're looking for. Are they looking for guys? This is a year they're really hungry and want to compete for a Super Bowl. Are they looking for guys they can development on the roster? Or are they looking like we needed as much depth as we can have, and then we'll put the rest on the practice squad and whoever can get through. So it'll be interesting to shake out. I think, you've got the top 7 locked down. This is that final 3. Do they feel they have enough depth at cornerback that maybe they can keep a 5th safety where they weren't going to before? They haven't really done so. So it's going to be interesting to see. Pads will tell the story once that comes on, but it's going to be fun to see how that all shakes out.
Shout out to our guy, Ren. Kenny Bell, OTA All-Pro. Kenny Bell was a draft pick out of Nebraska. Jason Light loved the guy. He was a big hitter, and it just did not work. It did not work. It was pretty crazy, and it just shows how Jason Light has gotten better at drafting, because now it's a surprise when guys get drafted and they don't make this team. It's not the side. We're just going to, get this guy out there.
I think I can only think of one guy who hasn't made it the last couple of years, and I can't remember his last name. It is edge rusher. It took in the 7th round, Andre something. Everybody else is on the team. Yeah, on the practice squad.
Yeah, at the very least, right? Before I let you go, I got to ask you a wrestling question.
Yes.
Money in the Bank winners. I'm going to let you pick the topic. What is the thing that's burning your bridge right now? What are you feeling? What's grinding your gears about the WWE? Who do you want to highlight? And it can't be Stephanie Vaquer, because we already talked about her today.
My man, 3 straight years. The crowd has been on him. LA Knight, you know it, man. What is going on? Where is this push? And Triple H keeps saying good things come to those. We waited 3 years. Give him a push. I guess he's getting into a program with Seth Rollins, which will help that, which is going to be a lot of fun, especially on the mic. Can't wait for that.
Do you have it? Hold on, let me cut you off. Do you have him beat Gunther and then Seth cashes in on him?
I wouldn't mind it.
I mean, I would love it, but I don't know. That seems too easy to tell.
But now, are you moving? I mean, again,
you're not gonna start a program and then stop. So
what do you do to? Are we like? We have brands. Are we fluid now? Because why was Seth just on SmackDown? So like LA is obviously he's done everything that he can do on SmackDown. So you got to move him to Raw. I guess the news just broke. Corey Hayes, he's a Bucks fan. Yeah, he just broke the news that the draft is happening after SummerSlam. So
there you go.
Maybe that mix-up will present him some more opportunities, or maybe even the Intercontinental. I don't know, but he's a guy who I think is being underutilized right now as well. And like, what's going on with the women's tag division? Can we get something working out over here? Like that's in the men's Ross tag division. Like let's put some things together, all right? Because right now, both of those are just in a dreary place.
Did you see the video from the New Day last night?
Oh my God, I just watched it on the way home. Hating. So they're gonna pull his juice, Slim Jims.
Yeah. So you know what they're gonna do now? I just saw something else a little while ago. They're gonna probably put Jay and Jimmy back together. I mean, it's been a nice run for Jay. It sucks because you lose the Yeet then, right? I mean, because Jimmy doesn't join the Yeet crew, and
Jimmy started the Yeet.
I know he did.
That's the whole thing. That's
I know.
Jimmy started the Yeet. And he's still coming out to their tag music.
I know.
It just got a couple words in it now.
I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they put them back together. I mean, everybody's going to love to see it, but I mean, did they both come through the crowd? Did they both Yeet? I don't know. It's just that's
we know what's
strange.
going to happen. Hikuleo's going to come back, or Roman is going to be bloodline kind of. Even though the bloodline is broken up, the Tongans are going to come back, and Solo's going to have the Tongans and Jeff Cobb, who I won't call JC Mateo, and all these other. They
were like, make sure it's JC, so I don't have to get rid of all this gear that I bought that have JC on it. Like, oh
right.
my god,
there's so much stuff, man.
They got to do it. You got to control the names. All right, brother, I appreciate it. JC Allen, let everybody know where they can find you and pick up your stuff.
Yeah, right here, JC Allen NFL, right there on Twitter, X, whatever you're calling it, and everywhere pretty much. Hey, even on Fortnite. So
nice.
Xbox. You guys want to run some with me and some of the Bucs players? Hit me up there. But I got the podcast coming out tonight. We got the great Greg Allman coming on. We're going to do our reactions from OTAs. Got a couple of things coming in the works over at Bucs Game Day. We're going to start breaking down where the Bucs rank in the NFC South. Do they have the best quarterback? Do they have the best running back? Or maybe they don't have the best running back, but they might have the best running back room. I don't know. We'll get into all that and figure out who's got the best rooms and best position groups. And then right before that, training camp, I'll have my yearly position breakdown where who's going to win this job, what's going to happen, too early 53-man roster predictions, all that stuff and more. Just follow me on X. You'll find everything that I'm doing, working on, and hopefully popping back on here, talk a little SummerSlam or something like that coming up. Crown Jewel. I
got to do a SummerSlam roundtable, right? I think I'm going to do a roundtable for all the big ones. So
that'll be fun.
With Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and then Survivor Series. So.
What do you think about before you kick me out? CM Punk, the John Cena CM Punk thing from Monday. I thought it was excellent.
I mean, the thing is that here's my in-depth feeling of it. I don't like when people pander to the crowd. I like it even less when you are the guy that was anti-establishment, anti-everything, anti-this, and that is what made you. It's the same thing. I mean, Stone Cold was the guy, anti-establishment. If Stone Cold comes out and instead of going, give me a hell yeah, he's like, I love you guys. You guys are the best. I do it for you. Like, I don't want to hear that shit. Like, You know what I mean? People don't like that. It's weird. And now they're going to be wrestling at Night of Champions. I thought CM Punk would have been in contention for maybe one of the last guys to wrestle John Cena. And now they're doing it in Saudi Arabia when he was crapping on people for going over there.
All right.
I mean, that's kind of intricate thing. But again, I am a big fan when it comes to wrestling is baby faces and heels. I don't like that there's reasons to boo CM Punk. It doesn't make it any easier to boo John Cena.
No.
Right? That's the thing where it's if you're a heel, be a heel. Don't be a cool heel. It has to come naturally. Being Stone Cold and doing the NWO thing, that came naturally. That's why people liked it. It wasn't like they were force feeding it. They were just doing whatever the hell they wanted. Right? Not everybody's like that. If you're a heel, be a dick. Don't, Dominic Mysterio to me is one of the best superstars that WWE has right now because he's a heel. He'll go like this and then, pull it away. Like he doesn't care. Like there's
a lot of this gray area wrestlers right now
because that's what, at the end of the day, it's just
like Seth and dude, Saturday Night Main Event when Seth was there or Raw, whatever it was. They called us all out.
He's like pandering to the crowd. Like the wrestling is always going to be at its best when it's a good guy versus a bad guy. And then when you have a rare occurrence, when you have two good guys or two bad guys, and I go back to WrestleMania 6, right? WrestleMania 6 or whatever it was with Hogan and Warrior, then it's like, oh my God, who do I root for? That's what you're clamoring for. If you have a gray guy and a gray guy, it's like, I don't know is it? I don't know. And you don't want that. Like that's part of the whole thing. Good guy versus bad guy. And they're losing that a little bit. And I think they need to reestablish that because if you can't even do that with CM Punk and John Cena, this should be one of the easier ones.
Right.
To get people to boo John Cena. This should be a layup because the music is one of the the entrances that's going to get people popping every single time. But now you even hear it when he mentioned Cody Rhodes the other night. Cody Rhodes is the best we got. And people are like, I'm like, oh shit. Like Triple H better have listened to that because I think we're coming to a point where Cody's going to turn. He's going to come to a point where he's going to turn. And the only way that he's going to turn is with The Rock. And he's going to sell his soul and do something like that. Maybe that's how everybody thinks that John Cena is going to turn babyface. And then that's going to happen. I think you do almost the double turn. You do a double turn where Cody and John go at it again. Here comes The Rock. Here comes Travis Scott to help Cena. Boom, rock bottom. Cody's now the heel. Double turn.
Oh,
John
yeah,
Cena
that's beautiful.
finishes the year as the baby face, like, yo, what the hell? And then go from there.
I love that. Last thing before, because I
Yeah,
just
go ahead.
started on the way there. Booker T said that he thinks R-Truth could have the kind of similar moment that Mick Foley had when he won the title for the first time. Do you think that you think R-Truth gets the strap?
Not a chance. Not a chance. And here's
so,
here's the reason why. What he's saying.
Sorry, Bucks fans, hijacked
No,
this. Sorry,
it's a,
they expect it.
what he is leaving out. What he is leaving out with this entire thing, and people forget because obviously it's freaking almost 30 years ago now. When you watched what happened with Mick Foley went through a transformation of this freaky guy coming out of a basement with pet rats. George was the pet rat's name.
Yeah.
Getting thrown off of Hell in a Cell, all these different things, to being Vince McMahon's corporate, when he, when everybody remembers the bedpan that Stone Cold hit Vince McMahon with, what you don't remember is that is when Mr. Sacco made his first appearance as well.
Yes.
In there, and he does all that stuff, and the
Comes
nurse
with the balloons and the
yeah,
clowns. Yes,
that shit's
yes.
hilarious.
That's
So
so
there's
good.
but you knew who he was, and diehard wrestling fans knew who Cactus Jack was, and you knew all the different things and all the faces of Foley. So when he finally, and again, The Rock's my favorite wrestler, always will be. My favorite match of all time is Mick Foley winning the belt for the first time, because DX was involved, the corporation was involved. Stone Cold comes down, and The Rock swinging his leg and turning around into the greatest chair shot that you've ever seen. 1, 2, 3. Michael Cole, I think it was one of the worst calls ever, that you can do it. And I was like, it's kind of a terrible call. But R-Truth, to be honest with you, people only like Truth now or people are only calling for R-Truth now is because he got fired. People liked R-Truth, but there's no consistent storyline. People are bitching and moaning about R-Truth getting fired. If he wasn't on TV for 4 months and you ask somebody where R-Truth was, nobody's going to answer that question like, man, I wish he was there. It's just like, hey, we don't know what his schedule is. Like, R-Truth is it's almost like Titus, right? Like, you don't see him very often, but when he's there, you love it. That's a big difference from one of the biggest upsets, and obviously one of the biggest turns when it comes to the Monday Night Wars, when that put a lot of butts in the seats. And I think it was something like, I want to say 80,000 or 800,000 people switched their channels from TNT to USA that night to watch Mick Foley. You're not getting that same thing. So that is a really in-depth answer to your question. And if anybody wants to cut and paste that, bada boom, bada bing, bada boom, real Scott in the room. How you doing? All right, brother.
And you can't teach that.
You want to talk about missed opportunities? That guy blew it.
Oh my God.
JC Allen, Bucks Game Day. Go check him out. I'll see you out there tomorrow. Thanks for your time, buddy.
Thanks. Appreciate you, man.
You got it, man. We'll talk. And don't tempt us with a good time. Don't tempt us talking about wrestling. We'll be here all gosh darn day. Whether it's David Shieldy or Matt Matera or Corey Long or JC Allen, Eddie and Cena, man, we'll go on a tangent. That's why we love the WWE. All right. I'm very happy. Now I'm not very happy. What am I not happy about? The U.S. men's national soccer team. I'm going to get to this. I got 3 minutes to talk about this before we wrap things up. A year from today, the World Cup starts in North America, right? And they were lost. They were down 4-0 in the first half last night in their friendly against Switzerland. Mauricio Pochettino, he took Tottenham to the Champions League final before they lost. PSG, all these other places, Chelsea, people brought him in here because it wasn't Jurgen Klopp, and myself included, didn't hate it because he has the experience of working with different guys. He's got the experience of taking these little engines that could and getting them to the next level. The job that he has done so far has been putrid. The lack of initiative, the lack of the lack of being around for our guys, and looking at the freaking roster and the people that we have on the pitch last night is embarrassing. Where are these guys? Who are these guys? We have so many of our players playing overseas and doing a great job. What Christian Pulisic has done at AC Milan, what Anthony Robinson has done at Fulham. Like, we have good players that for the first time are playing in the top 5 leagues overseas. And now last night I turned on the game and there's a bunch of guys in the MLS out there. The MLS is the MLS. There should be a handful of guys out there. But the fact that we turn on the game and you're losing 4-0 in the first half is embarrassing. They stink right now. And if you don't have Weston McKennie and you don't have Christian Pulisic and you have all these guys that are playing for Juventus and AC Milan and Fulham and playing in the Premier League and Ligue 1 and Serie A, you guys have to want to be there too. You guys think like, oh, I'm going to rest. I'm going to take my time. Hey, that's fine. That's your prerogative. But right now, it doesn't look good. Not at all. It's embarrassing. And everybody keeps saying, and Pochettino said himself, it's not going to take long. What, 5, 10, 15 years before we're the best team? We're not. We're not any closer. We're going backwards. Soccer in this country at the top level is going backwards. And I was watching LAFC, and they won that match against Club America. They're going to be in the FIFA World Cup for the Team World Cup. I get that. That's great. Fine. But a year from now is one of the biggest tournaments in the history of the sport in this country. And if you guys don't get your head out of your ass, and I'm talking about everybody, I'm talking about the coaches, I'm talking about the players, I'm talking about everybody that's involved with U.S. soccer on the men's side. If you don't figure this out, this is going to be probably one of the biggest missed opportunities in sports history. You have the ability to captivate an audience. And you're going, I mean, you want to talk about the levels of this game? I'm watching these teams right now, and I'm looking at how good Argentina is. And I'm looking at how good Portugal is. And I'm looking at how good Spain is. And I'm looking at how good France is. You guys have no shot. I'm not even mentioning England. I'm not even mentioning Switzerland, who got smoked your ass last night. I'm not even mentioning the Netherlands. Imagine if Norway gets in, right? Get Norway in there, and you'll have to face Erling Haaland and those guys. You're in trouble. You better figure this shit out, because you're going to embarrass yourself on the world stage. You don't even have to qualify for the World Cup because you're a host. Canada, U.S., and Mexico don't have to qualify. You don't have to play anybody and win shit to get in. Better figure this shit out. Because I'm one of those people that have been trying to grow this damn sport in this city, in this country. And if you get smoked, like we saw Qatar in game 1 in the last, oh man, I am going to be pissed. Pissed. Ted Lasso, Roy Kent, get them all in there. Get them all in there. All right, it's going to wrap it up for me, guys. I got to go. I got a doctor's appointment, so I got to go, but we're all good. We're all good. Nothing is bad at all. Everything's good. Follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I'm everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Make sure you super chat. Every super chat helps. If you want to be a sponsor on the Jay Recher Podcast, hit me up at Jay Recher on any of my social media platforms. A big thank you to JC Allen for joining us on the show, as well as Joey Knight. Some great Bucks talk, some great USF talk tomorrow, and the next two. Ooh, man. We have some big guests coming up the next couple of days, so make sure you keep it locked in. I'm working on it right now. Have no fear. Jay Recher is here. Maybe that's going to be on the shirt. You just don't know. No Beck on the Recher Podcast today. We're going to restart next week. Again, doctor's appointment today, but everything should be good. I love you all. Thank you for all the support. U.S. men's soccer, get your shit together, man, because we're a year away, and I'm not putting up with it. I'm not putting up with it. Day 3, Bucks mandatory minicamp tomorrow. Of course, I will be out there taking some more notes as well, and we'll talk a ton of Bucks on the program mañana. I love you all. Thank you. See you tomorrow at noon right here on the Jay Recher Podcast.